On today's special Halloween episode, Dan and Manny invite back Lauren Malott to put 1996's Scream to the ultimate test.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Welcome to the Nostalgia Test Podcast, the show where two longtime friends put their mainstream pop culture past to the ultimate test, the Nostalgia Test.
That's what you went with, Dan?
Yes, that's what
you
I went
went
with. Everyone, welcome back to the Nostalgia Test Podcast. It's spooky season. It's Halloween. If I did my job right, we've released a couple other scary, spooky season episodes. But welcome, everyone. If this is your first time, I'm your host. I'm one of the hosts, Dan Dissinger, here in LA. I'm here with my co-host, longtime friend, nostalgia maniac over there wearing the beanie, Manny Coelho. Manny, what's up?
Wearing a beanie, and I'm lit from underneath today in honor
You are.
of Dewey going, "Are you scared? Don't be scared."
Dewey.
With his flashlight. Dewey? Dude, we're here.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
And it's a guest episode. And let's get right into it.
Yeah, I mean, Lauren, last time you were here, we went over Hocus Pocus 2, and really good episode. Actually did pretty well. Everyone keep downloading the Hocus Pocus 2 episodes. Really good. And if you like other witch episodes, Manny and I do Hocus Pocus 1 and The Witches, which that movie, horrifying. That's a scary movie.
It was crazy.
And there's a naked kid at the end, which is not right. So that was not a good time. That was a horrible scene. But Lauren, welcome back to the Nostalgia Test Podcast. How are you doing? And let's just jump right into it. Scream. When was the last time you saw it before you saw it this week?
Thank you guys so much for having me, Manny, Dan. I'm so excited to be back. I had such a great time with Hocus Pocus 2, and now we're doing a bit of a change of pace with Scream.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
it's a slight
not PG
elevation.
at all.
No.
This is close to NC-17 rating, right? Like it's pretty damn close, dude. They almost didn't get the rated R rating. He had to do a bunch of cuts, even for the first scene, the first murder scene. The way how it zooms up on her hanging there. That's cut. Every other frame is cut, because if he kept it longer, they would have given him a different rating, or he couldn't do that whole scene.
Are you
serious? Lied to him. He lied to them and said, "We don't have any other cuts of that scene. We only have this." And they were like, "All right, then we have to keep it." But they almost we're going to give it an NC-17, or is it NC-16? It's NC-17.
Yeah.
But that kills the box office. So they're
Absolutely.
They cut out so many other scenes that were gruesome.
Well, thank God.
More gruesome than the first scene. So yeah, crazy. So this is not Hocus Pocus 2.
Not Hocus Pocus.
No.
Not Hocus Pocus at all.
No.
When was the last time you saw this, Lauren?
When was the last time? That is such a great question. So the first time I actually saw this movie, I saw it when I was 9, which is definitely too young. However, in my mother's defense, she thought this was she rented from Hollywood Video all back to the early 2000s.
I was an assistant manager at Hollywood Video.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
fantastic. I loved a good Hollywood Video. They was like the grown-ups blockbuster. It was like, oh no, it's DVDs now. We're in the future.
yeah.
It was great. And she thought she rented Scary Movie. And which was super popular with a lot of the kids in school. And she popped that sucker in, and we're sitting there and we're watching the opening scene that Manny just discussed, almost got the movie an NC-17 rating.
Yeah.
Keep going, no. My mother keeps saying, "It's going to be funny, guys. This is going to be funny." And I watched Drew Barrymore, who I had only known from Charlie's Angels, get sliced open.
Oh,
but
yeah.
the entire time I'm being told, no, it's going to be funny. And around the point when she was hanging in the tree, I believe is when my mom went, oh, I've made a huge mistake. So I saw the first part of the movie almost 20 years ago. And then I saw the movie in almost its totality at a sleepover, probably around like 13. And it was bits and pieces, though, because of being distracted in doing stuff around. But so actually the first time I've seen it uninterrupted was rewatching it for this podcast.
Wow. That's funny.
Right? Like I really hadn't seen a movie from start to finish until I sat down as a grown up. How about you guys? When was the first time you saw Scream?
I saw it in theater. I saw it in theater, and then I don't think I've seen it. I maybe saw it in pieces after that, and then I always like mix up the Scary Movie and this one because what's funny is this movie was going to be called Scary Movie.
That's true.
Like the title of the original title of this movie by the screenwriter was Scary Movie, and it was almost supposed to be more of a comedy, which is really funny that Scary Movie is the comedy. Yeah, and so, Wes Craven didn't even like the name Scream, didn't like it at all, and then like he later like took to it and liked it. But yeah, I mean, there are parts of this movie that are like campy and somewhat comical,
just like any horror movie. Like
so this like with horror movies, and Dan, you're more of this genre, like you like this kind of like slasher and stuff, and like, but I remember watching this and going like, oh, I like scary like horror movies now because like this like revamped, like I wasn't a big Friday the 13th guy. Not Friday the 13th. I'm sorry. I wasn't a Freddy guy.
No.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. Like there's a lot of callbacks to this. Like, and I've been watching a lot of like hints in this, and I'm like, oh, like Johnny Depp was in Nightmare on Elm Street,
and he dies heinously.
And like there's like the guy who plays the boyfriend,
Skeet Ulrich.
He was casted because he looked like Johnny Depp. Yeah. Johnny Depp goes into his girlfriend's window the same way he does in this movie, which is also funny because the screenwriter is Dawson's Creek screenwriter.
Holy shit!
Yes, and doesn't Dawson Creek use his window
all the time?
Yes. So I was like, oh, this guy just loves this guy. The writer loves men going in through windows.
That's creepy. But like, I was watching this film and I was like, why does this sound like Dawson's Creek? Like everything that Neve Campbell would say, like the way her like comebacks were and stuff. I'm like, this sounds like Dawson's Creek. Why is it? That makes so much fucking sense.
He's the writer of Dawson's Creek.
Holy shit.
He came up with Dawson's Creek. Yeah.
Wow.
You know what I thought that was interesting.
Kevin Williamson also helped create The Vampire Diaries with Julie Plec. With another piece of trivia, Julie Plec was Wes Craven's assistant on this movie and then became a producer in subsequent Scream films. But her and Kevin Williamson worked together to create The Vampire Diaries, which I thought was amazing that they came together decades later to create a TV show. But he's very good with teen writing.
Yeah,
he does a great job.
They tried other directors too, and the directors were making it more comedy like, and the producers at the time didn't like that, and they didn't want it to go that way, and then that's when Wes took it over.
This movie, it came out in 1996. We were freshmen in high school. I was in a marching band, which that's its own horror film. And and I remember going to the movie theaters with my friends for this, and we were like 15 years old, and we had to get someone else to buy the ticket. So here we are standing in the movie theater being like trying to pick the couple that's gonna buy these movie tickets for us. And we're just like, we're running out of time, we gotta fucking ask someone. And like, remember I was with, we'll just bleep out the last name, I was with Tom
Bro Hugs
and I don't know who else, and I remember him going up to this couple going like asking them to be like, just pose as our aunt and uncle and just try to buy, or at least my aunt and uncle, and buy the tickets. We'll give you whatever. And the guy was such a dick about it, but he did it anyway. And then we thought they were going to see Scream. So we walk into a movie theater with them, sit in the front row. The movie starts. I don't know what it was. And I'm like, this is
not Scream.
I'm like, shit. We had to run out of the theater and look for the Scream theater and then run in and watch the film.
That's awesome.
Dude,
wow.
This movie was huge at the time when it came out. And then, you know what? Like, I mean, if I look at the facts, like, first of all, it has an amazing cast. You got David Arquette, you have Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, who is always killing it, Matthew Lillard, Rose McGowan, Skeet Ulrich, which, I mean, watching Skeet Ulrich in Riverdale, love Skeet Ulrich.
And Drew Barrymore.
I mean,
the Drew Barrymore thing was crazy because she was all over the like she's the girl in the putting the hand over her face in all the posters and everything. Yeah. And for her to, she got casted as the lead, and she said no, and she's like, no, I want to be the girl who gets killed first.
Well, and
like that's like a callback to Psycho
with Janet Leigh,
because Janet, she was lead actress. Everyone's thinking she's going to be like the main character of this movie, and she gets killed in the shower. So it's like that's why she wanted that role. Like I remember seeing that and being like, "What? Like she's dead? Like who are we watching then? Party of Five girl? Like come on!"
But she killed it. But
she killed it.
Amazing. But I think what's funny about that is that there's a part in the movie where Dewey and Rose McGowan, so like David Arquette and Rose McGowan are talking about are talking with Neve Campbell, and Rose McGowan goes, "Hey, if someone gets to play you in a movie about you, who would you want?" She's like, "Oh, I don't know, like something like I forget. She's like, everything would be a bad choice or something like that." And someone says, "I see Tori Spelling," or something like that.
Yeah, Neve Campbell says, with my luck, it would be Tori Spelling.
And Tori Spelling,
she was supposed to play her.
She was supposed to play it. She was supposed to be that part.
Amazing. And then in Scream 2, she played Sydney's character in the Stab franchise that takes place in subsequent films.
Right.
So they had a really like referential point in the second movie.
I mean, dude, this movie
shady though.
This movie is like meta beyond meta. Like it's like satire, and it was supposed to be a satire, but also like the best homage to this genre, right? Like I thought it was great because it knew what it was making fun of. Like it knew itself. It didn't take itself so seriously, and yet it kicked off. Like if you remember, this kicked off like
a lot of horror.
The horror genre being more mainstream. Yeah. Like this was like the kickoff of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
Like
also
it was like
by
all
Kevin
these
Williamson.
Yeah, all these people were like intertwined in all these movies, and it was all the same shit, but you win. Mm-hmm. Like I remember watching a couple of I Know You What You Did Last Summer. Maybe it's all one, but I think it's more than one.
It's
but
three.
It was,
yeah.
So like
I know because they're fantastic movies. They're great.
So wow. Okay.
He wrote them. Yep.
He wrote The Faculty. He wrote Cursed, Sick, Teaching Mrs. Tingle. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Damn. Wow.
It's impressive. It's very impressive. Did you guys look? Go ahead, Manny.
No. You go.
Oh, I was just going to say he was inspired by real life murders to write this film, but it was because he was watching the news or reading the news about these real life murders, the Gainesville murders. And then he went into his kitchen and saw that a window was open, and he did not remember opening that window. So he actually grabbed a knife and called a friend and was walking around the house with a knife while his friend was making fun of him and making, scary movie sounds over the phone. And that's where he got the idea for this film.
Didn't he do it like, it wasn't like 18 minutes he wrote, like not 18, he like wrote 18 pages or something.
Like a
and was like,
script.
And then kind of forgot about it and like came back to it. And it was, just how things go when things do really well in Hollywood. Like it was like serendipitous things happened, and it made this movie. And I don't think they believed that it was going to be this good.
Well, I mean, the budget was like somewhere between 14 and 17 million dollars, and this movie made 173 million, I think it was. Let me look again because I had it up. Yeah,
it was
173 million dollars. That's a lot of movie. And this movie didn't even come out in October. This movie came out December 18th in LA, and then like across the United States on December 20th. So that means that this movie was kind of
during
a throwaway.
Christmas.
That's what they do with these types of movies. They're like, I don't fucking know if this movie's going to be good. And they just throw this shit away around that time.
This is a movie that they send to the movie theater in packages, right? I found out that movie theaters have to take in movies if they want a big movie, they have to buy other movies too and play them, which I didn't realize that. But somebody who worked in a movie theater told me that, like, if you know, like, you know, a Tom Cruise movie is coming out and you really want it as a movie theater, you also have to promise to buy 6 of these other movies and you have to play them. This is probably like, yeah, whatever. We'll put Scream on there. But you also have Drew Barrymore. Like, nobody knew that she died first, right? So you're selling it as a Drew Barrymore movie, and then you get everybody hooked right then and there. I mean, that scene, the first scene is by far the best scene in the movie. To me, the best scene in the movie. It has everything you need in horror. Like, there's comedy in it, suspense, the music, the way it's shot,
the popcorn.
Oh my God!
Did you guys make popcorn ever that way?
Pop.
Did you?
I never made Jiffy Pop on the stove. Really? I've only ever done microwave or like air pop. I watched that. It's fascinating to watch. You're like, oh my God, this is such a time capsule of the 90s.
Seriously.
That's so cool too, because of the suspense of, like, I don't know if you were thinking it, but I'm like, shut the damn fucking stove off as you're running around. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm thinking in my head, like, that's what I would be thinking. Like, the house is gonna go on fire. But she's thinking that she's getting killed. But she won't shut off the damn gas. She gets the knife. She goes back and forth into that kitchen about 8 times.
First of all, she hides behind a television. Like, that was the funniest part.
What was that? Yeah.
To be fair, she had just seen her boyfriend, like, eviscerated. So I think maybe she was experiencing a bit of trauma. Like, just a little bit of trauma.
Why is she still on the phone with him and not hanging it up and then calling the cops?
That's what I wanted to know right away. I'm like,
that's a great question.
Because she does, like, humor him at some point. She's just like talking to
First
him,
of all,
telling her.
Yeah, let's go back for a second.
Okay.
Why are we talking on the phone this long to someone that gave you the wrong number? Like, she was then flirting with this guy. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? If someone calls and, like, oh, I know you got the wrong number. Oh, this was funny. Okay, whatever. And then she stays on and she's humoring him.
Oh, yeah. Because there's no social media. There's nothing else to do. Like, social media would have changed.
Where are they that, like, they live in beautiful mansions, but in the middle of farms?
Santa Rosa, California. That's where they are. I know.
Do they all live in vineyards? Like, what the fuck? It's like these stunning, beautiful cottages. Yeah. And they all, like, get dropped off individually by the bus. Like, I used to go to a bus stop.
Yes, the bus.
We never got individually dropped off.
Another
like,
horror.
Neve Campbell is like, she walks out, goes to her mailbox. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
I'd also like to point out with the Casey scene in the beginning, not a single door was locked when she does the frantic locking of the doors. Not a single one was locked. I was like, oh, okay. So we're a woman at home without our parents. It's dark outside and we're just leaving doors open.
We're just leaving doors open.
Maybe it's a false sense of security.
Maybe
being a vineyard girl.
I think maybe it is because I go to Vermont a lot. And I know that Vermonters, well, I snowboard. It's what a brag. I'm just saying that Vermonters who live there, they're just like, they brag about I lived here for 40 years. I've never shut my door. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, bears could come in. Like, there's people, they're drifters, man. Like, come on. Like, come on.
But that's a New York state of mind, Billy Joel. But that's a New York state of mind because, like, Nowhere am I ever going anywhere where I'm not locking a door, closing a window,
Absolutely.
shutting my lights, like doing all these things.
See, I have that issue. I don't really like my wife, man. She locks right behind me. She's like,
absolutely.
If things like as soon as we let the dog out and in, locks. Like, so when I saw that first scene, I was like, this wouldn't be my house. Like, that's no way.
It's horrifying. It's absolutely, it's like, how did we get this far? You should see me get in and out of my car. Getting into my car, it's a frantic run in and then shut the door, lock it. Like there's no dilly dally.
That's how I used to run through my basement. The light on and like.
Exactly. Why? But why do we do this, guys? Why do we do this? Because we know the rules of horror movies.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
why. Yes. That is why. Because we
Jamie Kennedy killed it.
Oh, he's
him in this.
He's my all-time favorite character. Randy is spectacular. He's such a joy to watch. It's such a pleasure to watch self-aware characters. I think that's what makes Scream so interesting is that it's so self-aware. Like it knows that it's a horror movie. Horror movies exist very much so because they reference every horror movie in existence. I mean, you've got Psycho, not just Wes Craven horror movies, which you've got Halloween, obviously. In Nightmare on Elm Street, but they also reference classics like Psycho. It's all very referential. But
Prom Night, Carrie, like they like name drop the whole time.
Yeah,
but it's so good that they did it. The one plot there is a plot hole. Star 69 was invented in 1995. This movie came out in 96.
Yeah.
So unless it was shot before Star 69, like they didn't even reference that. Like, hey, why don't you just Star 69 the guy? Like, what the fuck? I was watching this and I'm like, this could never work now because of everything that we have. And yet Scream 6 came out and apparently they figured out how to clone iPhones and shit, and that's how they make that work. But like, I was like, just hang up and Star 69 this guy.
Well,
like,
they cloned the cell phone in this one. They cloned the cell phone.
They did. You're right.
And they have caller ID in Star 69 in Scream 2. They referenced that plot hole. So I do feel like that
they knew. They were like,
aware that was like, guys, we have a little mess up here.
One of my funniest, like, when the police officer's like, why do you have a cellular telephone? I was like, I
wrote that one down, son. Why do you have a cellular telephone, son? And I'll just point out when it falls out of Ulrich's pocket, right? I didn't flash that we were supposed to be like so amazed that he had a cellular device. It just goes to show how much of a time capsule this is because now I go, oh, okay, cool. His cell phone fell out. And then, the reason Sydney freaks out is like, that's not everyone has a cell phone in their pocket.
Yeah, it would be like,
John, you're 17, you can't afford this. Like,
he would literally it would be now a knife would have to have fallen out of his jacket pocket with the mask, being like, where did you get that? Because if he dropped his iPhone, someone's like, bro, you dropped your phone. Like,
so there's a theory that he was there the first time going through her window. To distract Neve to kidnap the father, and that the father got kidnapped that night.
Yes, that Stu comes through the other door.
Stu came through the other door. Because I was like,
sense.
My whole thing was like, this killing happened. How is the father leaving on a business trip? Like, why would you leave? No, bro, I'd be like, you're coming with me. Your mother got murdered. Like
last year.
Like she should get over that though. She should.
My God,
that was so fucked.
And even the best friend was saying that. Like,
they all were.
I'm like, what the fuck? Just because my mom was a whore, it's okay that she got killed and like. But it wasn't even that.
She didn't just get killed. She got like brutally murdered and assaulted. And it wasn't like it wasn't just like, her car fell off a cliff, like, which still would have been traumatic, but she was brutally murdered. Like, so, and the whole town's just like, come on, get over it, get back to class.
That was shocking. I couldn't believe that line. I'm like, okay, so are we surprised that are we allowed to put we're going to put a spoiler warning on this? Surely no one's watching this who doesn't know who.
Oh no, if they follow us, they know.
Okay, we're good. Yeah, I mean, surely we know Billy is a psychopath just based on the fact that he's like, you're still upset about that whole dead mom thing. Like,
can we just have sex? Let's get.
And he's obsessed. And he's obsessed with like movies. Like he's comparing his relationship to PG ratings. Like, oh, we started as a G. We went up to almost an NC-17 rating. Like, this guy only wants to compare himself to movies.
He's like, lately, we're just edited for television. I'm like, what kind of bullshit? That is like that is one of those lines that is a Dawson's Creek line, because that's how they would speak to one another. Like, in, like weird quotes like that.
That's very much teen television show.
Yeah.
All I know is I was watching their relationship. I'm like, your relationship sucks. Like, you're a terrible relationship to be in. This is a horrible relationship.
How old are they? Are they supposed to
They're
be
25
in high school?
They're 30.
They're just like any
like
typical
16?
90s. Yeah, they're definitely 16, 17 years old.
16, 17. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
How about
Creepiest
when
part of the
Henry
movie,
Winkler-
ready?
Yes, go for
Henry
it.
Winkler touching her chin.
What was that?
What was that?
Flash that. That was creepy.
He touched
Bro.
her face like that. Yeah.
I knew Dan was going to pick it up. I'm like, that was weird.
That's weird that I didn't.
How are you
even
feeling,
flash on
honey?
that.
And he like goes,
He like grabbed
Maybe
her
it's because
face.
it's Henry Winkler, and so I give him like way more leeway in the.
But is that supposed to be like, I'm a father figure and I'm making you feel comfortable? Like,
Well, he does say-
grazes her chin.
Yeah, he does say on the PA,
Like, goes like this. I can't even. It's like,
yeah, he says
How are
this,
you?
your principal loves you.
Yes, he does, because it's Henry
Ooh.
Winkler. That's why. That's
Do you know why he
because
gets
he's a
killed in
kind
it?
Man, why? Oh, why?
That was confusing to me.
he gets killed because the producers were like, it's been 32 minutes and nobody has died.
So let's
We need
So
a
they-
little death.
Let's kill the Fonz.
Because he wasn't supposed to be
Yes.
credited in this movie because the teenagers were supposed to get the bump that they needed to become superstars. And, you know, he doesn't need that. But he was crazy. Like that principal was nuts.
But
I
that's
loved him so much. Did you notice?
Oh,
that
he was
his jacket-
fantastic.
His jackets from Happy Days, where the leather jackets were hanging in the closet. I thought that
Dude,
was
this whole movie
great.
is filled with Easter eggs.
I love
It's crazy.
Easter eggs. It's fantastic.
The
and then
janitor,
the Wes Craven. Oh my gosh!
Craven.
Also pulling
Fred.
Yes, Fred in the sweater. I've never even seen those movies. They're just such a part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
that I'm very much aware of them, and I could pick out that Easter egg right away. And I love that it's kind of a nod to Alfred Hitchcock being in all of his movies as well.
Sure.
It's so good.
No, and like then one of the more even meta of that is, you know, when they're in the police station and Dewey's just trying to tell his sister not to talk that way to my superior.
Dewey.
She closes the door and she goes, the janitor's your superior. That's because the janitor is Wes Craven.
Oh,
Wow.
that's
Who's
good.
Fred. So they even like went into that. So I was like, man, like they're just constantly every scene that they could think of, they're just like, let's reference something. Like, they basically tell you who the killers are in that one scene in the middle.
Yes, with Henry Winkler with the. Are you referring?
Well,
to that scene
no,
with the two
they
kids,
do it
or?
there. They do it there, but they also do it when they're all talking. And he's going, "Well, you dated her. She was your ex. Like, you'd have some reason to kill her." And he's like, "I'm not the killer, but if I did, this is how you carve somebody." Blah blah. And then the other guy, Johnny Depp wannabe, is like, you know,
Skeet Ulrich.
you know, he's like, you know, telling him to kind of back off on like saying too much.
Yeah.
Like they're both like about to just like give it away.
Well,
But-
because Matthew Lillard cannot just stop talking. Like his character is just first of all, SLC Punk comes out in 1998, Scream 1996, and Hackers 1995. So he's already killing it, right?
Yeah.
But in each one of these films, he is this guy. It's like he was in Hackers, and then whatever happened there, the parents there were like, we gotta move. Like, this is not good. We gotta go. So they moved to Santa Rosa, and he becomes a murderer there. And they're like, all right, when you get out of juvie, we got to get the hell out of there. Then they move him to Salt Lake City, Utah, and he becomes an anarchist, and his friend dies in the middle of the night. So, like, you know, it's like the craziest thing because he plays like himself in all these films.
Yeah,
like,
but that's what they wanted. You know, like they wanted him to be that.
He was
person.
So energetic. It was
God,
amazing. Well, and his best role to date is obviously as Shaggy in the live action Scooby-Doo, and I believe it's 2003.
I love that you're saying obviously.
Obviously, I don't understand. It's not up for debate. I know this is a podcast where you guys were supposed to share opinions, but this one is it's a fact. I have this under my trivia fact sheet in notes. There's no really room for wiggling around there. So it's like, Jackie's evil in this. Okay.
Oh yeah, and I think the breakout performance was Liv Schreiber in the just not having lines at all. He is the killer that got framed by these two 15-year-olds or whatever, like literally. Like it's just a picture of it. It's just him like, hey, I'm Liv Schreiber, and then putting him in a car.
It's well, let's talk about one of the best cameos. Did you guys catch Linda Blair?
Yes.
Yeah.
As the reporter.
And she's asking,
so good.
she asks something that's like familiar to The Exorcist.
Oh no, she asked, what did it feel like to almost be brutally butchered?
Yes. Okay. That's
a reporter is not going to ask that question. Like it's going to be more like, how are you doing? Or, oh my God, like, how did it feel to be brutally butchered? And
it would be if they're possessed by the devil.
Yes.
It's remnants left.
You know, the captain is also the cop that was in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Wow.
So the theory goes there is that he left from the craziness of Nightmare on Elm Street and he moved to this town, trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna get away from all this killing. It got even worse.
I wish it was the cop from Killer Clowns. I wish it was the cop from Killer Clowns.
Dan, I wanted it to be him so bad. But another thing that I noticed that apparently, first of all, who's deaf in her household, because she has a computer that says like deaf police talk or whatever. And so that she was like using the computer to call the cops. But how is it possible that she was using the computer to call the cops if her phone was not working? Because
dial up.
We were dial up then, buddy. We were dial up. No way she would have called the cops.
Wow.
You're right.
A get. That's a big get.
Unless she had two lines.
You have to be rich.
Does she have a deaf brother? Because if you look at it, something about deaf comes up, and that's the service that she's using. But and I'm just like, she either has to have two lines, or there's a big plot hole right there, because the phone wasn't working. Computer would have never worked unless we're into the world that we're in right now.
Wow, so, that's a great point.
I said it right away to Kristen. I made Kristen watch this yesterday, and she's like, "Why are you making me watch this right now?" She doesn't like scary movies, and she's like, "Wait, did she just use the computer?" I'm like, "Yep, watch," and then we paused it and dissected that whole part. But
that's a great catch.
And
great catch.
Also, when
Manny,
the cop is being called in and saying, we found a car, whatever, and Doobie wants to go and Doobie wants to go and get some action with the reporter. He's like, he tells the guy, call the cops. All cop cars have radios.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's
why. What do you mean call the cops? Dial 911. What are you talking about? Go into your Jeep, call it in.
Yeah.
He does it because all he wants to think about is getting ass. Because Neve ends up in the truck, in the Jeep, and uses the radio.
That's right.
So all this could have been solved if Doobie wasn't trying to stick his Doobie in it. Come on. Sex.
Oh my God.
In her
one
doobie.
of the rules. Yeah, and one of the rules. One of the rules.
Do not have sex.
Do not have sex.
Do not have sex. Wow. Do not have sex.
Yes.
That's why Randy survives. He's so grateful to be a virgin at the end.
Yeah, that was the best.
It's amazing.
It was the best. That whole part was great when he was like explaining the rules and stuff. I
loved that scene.
Yeah.
That was so much fun to watch. And I think it really, there's kind of this genre of self-aware horror movies. Like I'd put up the remake of Cabin in the Woods from 2011. And then 2015 had The Final Girls. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, but it's another movie where the rules are known. The rules are known in horror to the people in the movie. And it's so much more fun to watch when you're not having to yell at your TV every single thing, like stupid choice that the character makes. Like when Neve is on the phone and he's asking her about scary movies, and she says, "Oh, I don't like that. It's just a dumb blonde with big boobs who runs up the stairs instead of running out the front door." But then she has to run up the stairs because the front door's locked. So you go, okay, well, she tried to make the right choice and she couldn't. So at least we're rooting for her, not going, oh, okay, so the blonde with big boobs went down into the basement with a flashlight that's like glitching. The batteries are almost dead. And she goes, no, I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down anyway and not telling. So it's so much more satisfying to watch when you're not screaming at your television. And I feel like they avoided a lot of those moments. Like I didn't feel super frustrated with the characters with the exemption of Casey in the beginning, not locking any doors. That was a little bit.
What about Rose? What about Rose?
Rose McGowan's character?
Oh, and she doesn't tell anyone when she goes to get beer in the garage.
Well, her boyfriend tells her to go get it.
Right.
So he sets all that up.
Right. So she thinks someone knows that she's in the garage. She's not being totally stupid.
But
and she fights back.
Okay, that's what I want to say.
Yeah.
This Ghostface takes a beating. I mean, he's getting bottles cracked. Like it should hurt. Like he shouldn't be able to do. Like I feel like if people just kept fighting him instead of running away, I think like he would have been killed.
Yeah, he wasn't that strong of a person.
No, it was Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich.
But it also it depends on who it was, though.
I think that one was Skeet Ulrich because Billy was not invited to that party and Stu was inside. And then after she dies, Billy comes to the front door and you actually see him smirk at Stu, kind of, I did it. I took care of her.
So he kills her.
Because Neve goes
it on with Neve Campbell.
Yeah, and Neve says, Rose will be upset. Well, Rose's character would be upset if she saw you here. And and he gives the signal like, well, she's dead anyway. So
she's hanging from a garage door that no one saw. No one saw.
Where's that garage?
I think it's in the back of the house, right? So I don't think anyone, that was my understanding of why no one saw it when they were walking away. And that's why Sydney saw it when she fell out the second story into the boat in front of the garage. Into the boat, thank God.
Just rolled right over. It's just like,
family's got a boat and everything.
Yeah.
Stu's very well off. Stu's that's why he knows his parents are going to be so mad at him.
Stu got crazy because of his best friend, or he was did
a maniac.
Did his best friend just was able to like kind of I guess groom him because of his like love to his ex-girlfriend. It was kind of
peer
like
pressure, Manny.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh well, our first killing is going to be your ex-girlfriend. Like what? Like, well, I killed the mother a year ago, and now we're gonna kill your ex-girlfriend. Like, all right, sounds good.
These police officers
feel bad for Stu at the end when he's being sliced and
my God, yeah.
You're like, movie. God, you hit me with the phone.
I'm dying here.
I feel a little woozy.
Did you really call the police? My parents are gonna be so pissed at me.
That's when like the comedy comes out, but like that's also part like when they're explaining too much, where they could have just killed. They could have just pop done, right?
Yeah.
But like they had to explain like that rule wasn't explained or talked about, and I thought it was great because it was like, when the killer is going through his little narration, you could just do whatever you want because he's distracted in the talking that he wants to explain everything. So
this is where horror films like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like they don't abide by that. Like there's no talking. Like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's literally just like people make the wrong mistake of going inside a house that's not theirs. And once they do that, it's over. Like, and then one friend dies. And then everyone's got to go, let's go look for that person. And then they all go into the house and then they all get killed. Like, you know what I mean? There's usually one survivor, but then some maniac picks her up and it's just like, oh, that's
the final girl.
Right. And then they did the remake with Jessica Biel. And then I think she actually does escape.
She does
on her own. She actually drives on her own out of that. But it's funny how like to me, horror films, something happened at a certain point where like it went from like horror films and telling these like really interesting, like crazy, like slasher stories and whatever to just straight up torture films.
Yes.
And
like Saw, you mean?
Yeah, I can't watch that. I can't watch that because to me it's
torture
not horror.
porn. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's not horror to me. Like that's not horror.
More like thriller, like
Sort of,
suspenseful, I guess, because like you're like trying to like it's more about like the puzzle of trying, because isn't Saw like he puts a key in someone's eyeball and it's like that key would like
that's so far past my
unlock whatever.
Yeah, like, and Hostel. I mean, I saw Hostel in the movie theaters, but you? Like, yeah,
wow.
But even that movie was like, when I go back and think about it, I'm just like, yeah, it was different. It was a little different, but like. It just like it became just like this crazy, like way too violent. Like House of a Thousand Corpses, I feel like is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like modern day. But then they went nuts and they did The Devil's Rejects, which was, I think, pretty good. At the end, you're so confused as the audience member, being like, who do I root for? Because they make you actually emotionally empathize with like the villains, the way Rob Zombie films it. But like, there's no real horror anymore. Like it's just much.
Because I wouldn't say Purge is not a horror. That's just
Purge is a whole other fucking thing.
Yeah,
like we are, whatever. But
it's like a psychological thriller.
Yes, I would think it would fall into that category. And I think just in the 90s as well, there weren't any true slasher flicks happening up until this point. Like you had Misery, which was, all of it was very fantastical. None of it was based in reality. And I think that's what makes Scream so freaking terrifying, is it's very grounded. It's hilarious. And obviously it's funny. And like, it's also, you're laughing while also having your adrenaline pumping because it is truly scary, but it's very much based in reality. Anyone could be Ghostface and it could happen to you. Someone could call you on the phone, even if they, theoretically you could star 69 them, but let's pretend that doesn't exist. They could torture you on the phone and come into your house and wreak havoc on your life. And all the other movies like that's based in fantasy. Misery,
that 1990.
Yeah, probably only an issue with Misery if you're a writer who has a lot of fans in snowy regions of the country. But it's just like, then Silence of the Lambs, also very like, the serial killer in Silence of the Lambs is so insane that I don't watch that and go, oh, this could happen to me. Like there's a chance that I could be in a hole, someone saying it puts the lotion on its body. Like,
oh my God.
I don't feel like that's a high risk situation for me. And 7, I'm also, not too concerned about what box my head is going to end up in. You know what I mean? But like, Scream, I could, this is, God bless my parents listening to this, I could be stabbed. It could happen. Like I watch it and go, like this is based in reality as much as one of these films can be. And I think that's what makes it so good. It's such a classic.
I mean, I think there's so much to, even just like I was saying, the music plays like such a huge role in this.
Yeah.
The music itself is a character. Like it goes back to even Jaws. Like there was like cut scenes and you're feeling you almost, there was like a theme song to when Ghostface was coming, and even a theme way it was shot, like when the camera moved a certain way and zoom, and like when like a zoom in, you knew Ghostface was near. So like it was the movie is like telling you, and you're getting used to like what Ghostface is, just kind of like Star Wars, like how Darth Vader has its own, he has his own theme. So when you hear that, Darth Vader is going to show up. And then even the Jedi have their own thing. Like everything had its own theme. So like that plays a huge role of suspense. Your heart was beating a little bit, even like faking you out a little bit when she opens up the closet at her house, and you're like, oh, she's going to close it, and like the guy's going to be right there. And he wasn't, but then he was in the closet later on when she wakes up, and you're like, how is she that tired that she goes to sleep? What's she taking a mid nap for?
No one should be sleeping or showering or doing anything in horror films. Like, it's just like, you should be, I would,
another rule.
Another, get the fuck out of town. That's rule number 1. Don't stay. Like,
don't stay.
That
curfew scene was almost a little too much because of what we went through 2 years ago. Like everyone shutting the doors. I'm like, somebody joked around, I saw online, was like, nowadays it would have been like, no, there is no murderer, and there would be like protests outside, and like everybody's like fighting against like the curfew.
True.
Like, but it was, why is she, like, to me, I was like, first of all, all the lights are off in her house when she takes a nap. Like it's like she felt so tired. The melatonin was so much that she's waiting for her friend to get there at 7 o'clock.
What a shitty friend.
You knew she wasn't going to be there on time because she said it like 4 times. She's like, I'll be there at 7. No, I'll be there at 7.
She's looking for the movie like to watch Tom Cruise's penis, which that was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, like if you pause it right, you could see his penis.
I was going to ask you, Manny, you've seen all these Tom Cruise movies. Have you seen
I've not seen that. All the right moves. Yeah, I was like, I guess I got to go back and check that scene out.
Oh, please. You guys never tried to pause Basic Instinct?
Well, no, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying you
didn't say that.
I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it was just funny that she brought that up.
They also referenced Richard Gere and the gerbil rumor. So that was
she said that real quick. She's like, well, if you
just throw it away,
say it enough times, you kind of, find out it might be right.
And they mentioned,
wow, did you just compare that? Yeah, did you compare that to her mother's murder being a whore? Like, what are you talking about?
They slut shamed her mom.
Oh my god,
the
whole
terrible.
A woman that was brutally murdered. It's like it doesn't matter, and they're just like, well, she was
like she deserved it because she was a whore.
She deserved it. She was maybe like you said, maybe who knows? Her husband was maybe a shitty guy. We don't know what's going on, right? Like
why did they kill the principal?
Didn't we just go over that?
No, but I'm saying because the producer said that. But I'm trying to think about what would be. Oh, maybe because he called a curfew. So
I think that they
got pissed off.
I think it was just that it was going to be cool to just kill your principal. I mean,
I think the principal could have had a better fight.
Figure. Yeah, I mean, well, when he caught those two in the hallway, that was very much a hint that we were going to have two killers at the end, right? And then even one of those characters is wearing a blue flannel, and Billy at the end is wearing the blue flannel. So they very much tie it in, but maybe it was just an authority figure that they had a lot of resentment towards, or maybe they just wanted to see Henry Winkler die with ghosts faced in his eye, a la Psycho.
That was a really good shot.
You know what that reminded me of?
What?
And this whole movie started reminding me of this in a while because also Skeet Ulrich's character is named Billy. And I'm saying it right now and I'm getting goosebumps and freaked out. Black Christmas because of all the phone calls. He's Billy. The voice in it. The eyeball shot. That is
it was basically based on Halloween.
Yeah, but Black Christmas is the only horror movie that has ever psychologically and emotionally impacted me like that.
Really?
That movie terrifies
the opening
me.
scene of that movie is crazy.
I've never seen it, so now I need to put on that.
It is so crazy. It's a slasher film.
Make sure you see it's one of the first. One of the very first slasher films, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And when you watch it, make sure that you watch the right one from the 70s, not this bullshit that they redid. It is terrifying.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, so watch it during the day.
It's terrifying. Yeah.
I couldn't go up my attic steps I don't know how long.
I would say go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, should I do a Black Christmas and then Hocus Pocus? That should be the palate cleanser afterwards.
You want to go something nice afterwards.
So you got to watch Toy Story after.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, you got to go you got to forget about anything that has to do with horror, even if it's a light horror, PG horror.
What do you say? It's Billy? No. Oh, that movie. But
the only other thing,
the whole thing reminded me of that.
The only other, and it's not a slasher film, but around this time was Blair Witch, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1999.
So that changed the whole. That changed make movies, shitty, grainy, handheld. Things started to become handheld. It was more breaking the third wall, breaking it was okay to be first person kind of thing.
Right.
And that movie was a whole other jump of scary movies. That was all
that
the
triggered. Then Paranormal Activity very much took off of that. And those movies, when they first came out, were terrifying. They were doing the reports about people fainted, people had seizures in the theater because it was so horrifying. Like, I remember when they were promoting those films in that way, like, it was just so terrifying to watch. But that was all Blair Witch origin.
Yeah, I mean, all that was like, movies that used home video, so you thought it was real, and the marketing was phenomenal. Like, Blair Witch's marketing was one of the best marketings of our time.
I agree.
Because you were like telling friends that it was real, and you believed it, and everybody had that VHS copy that somebody got, and it's like, did they just let these VHS copies out? And like, people are like, oh no, this is, I got it from a friend that knew somebody that was on the film, and like, this is real. And it's like,
that movie was
perfect marketing.
God, I remember hearing like kids at school and their older siblings had seen it, and like, oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yo, I watched that movie. I was really scared during that movie. I was like, we were watching. I was watching my cousin and Steve. Steve was watching it with me, and my cousin was dating a film guy just before I went into film school, and they got a copy. And again, I don't know if they got a copy as like, well, this is how we're going to get people to drum up and talk about it. So I didn't watch it in a movie theater. I watched it in the house with the lights off. And that was terrifying.
Oh, no.
That was terrifying. That was the best way to watch it. That was the best way to watch it, too, because if you watched it, you had to have a different experience watching it in the theater.
I watched it in the theater.
With all these people around versus in your own home by yourself in the dark. Right. So, Dan, I know we're almost up. So
I was just going to say, like I want to make sure that we have our final words on screen before we put it to the test. Lauren, anything else like from Scream, from your viewing, for anything that you just said, like, got to make sure to get in there?
Got to make sure to get in there. That's such a great question. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you for throwing that to me. I am looking through my notes right now. I have so many notes. That it was such a fun movie to watch, and having not seen it in its entirety, having a start and stop history with this movie, getting to sit down and watch the whole thing through, I loved it. And there were so many little Easter eggs and things to pick up every time you watch it. Even watching it a second time today before coming on here, like I saw things that I hadn't seen a few days ago. It's just that good. I think it was so much fun to watch. The only thing I have a question about is that not long after the Richard Gere gerbil comment, they cut to Sydney and her friend in Rose McGowan's character being in the grocery store, and you see Ghostface in the freezer aisle. Yeah. I just am a little curious how he walked around the grocery store without getting caught. That was my only like really big that one threw me off a little bit. But otherwise it was amazing, and it was so much fun to watch while also being truly terrifying.
I thought the same thing, because I was like, but I think that's to do with like a lot of horror films where like you'd see Mike Myers just like walking in the daylight and people just like don't notice him. Right. And it's just like, he's like supposedly 6'10". Like, he's a huge man. Like, and this is not, and that like, it's not easy to hide in that costume, in that Halloween costume. Like, well, what's going on? But you're right. Yeah, absolutely. It's so crazy.
It's so wild. Weird. It's wild.
It's so weird. Manny, final words on screen.
I think, I thought I was going to think it was so cheesy, but like, I loved how almost it was like, again, it's a meta satire that did such a great job that I ended up loving it. Like, I wanted to be like, this is so bad. Like, but it's supposed to be bad, but it played it the perfect line of like, well, this is what I was expecting. So it's like hitting the nostalgic, like all the receptors. Like, I almost compare this to what Ready Player One did for me, because Ready Player One was like all these Easter eggs of all the things you love, nostalgia, and then this was like our version of like, yeah, if you like thrasher films, we're going to give you all these things, but we're going to do so good that we're going to start a whole new genre and we're going to get new fans. Because there's all these mainstream people. We're going to mainstream people that never watched Freddy, never watched Jason, never watched like all these classic things. We're also being taught a lesson by Jamie Kennedy about like, this is what a movie is. This is what Halloween is. Like, you can't have sex. You got to do this. You got to do that. Like, almost as if they knew we were going to have these new people watching us, and we need to get them to know right away what a thrasher film is, and this is why you're going to like it. And then all of a sudden, now you're hooked. You got a whole new fan base. Yeah. Like it was like how they were able to do that. The writer was genius. So I think I actually ended up really liking this movie. Yeah. Like,
I agree. I mean, I think like I was watching it and I was almost thinking the entire time, like, this is the perfect horror film. Like, I think it's one of the best horror films ever created. It has the horror part down. It has the comedy part down. It makes it light because you need lightness in a horror film. It can't just all be disastrous, like gore and just like violence the whole time. That's where people get it wrong. It can't be that. It's got to be funny. It's got to be light. It's got to have other storylines in it. And then it has the slasher film part to it, right? You can't just constantly shove that like gore and violence down the audience's throat. It's just too much, right? You have to kind of like lull them in, dole it out, bring it out. Like, there's a lot to be done in a horror film. I think Scream does it the best. I think I haven't seen a horror film do it like this since Scream. I think in the 90s though, there were some really good ones. The Craft came out in the 90s. That was a really good film. I like
Ulrich and Neve Campbell.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. I thought was pretty good.
It was pretty good.
Those are fantastic.
I think it's. Yeah,
Candyman was the 90s.
Oh man, yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah. But Scream does something where, like, it brings back that old school slasher film, and it does it in a really good way. I think I think if I'm gonna put it right to the test, I'm saying that Scream passes the nostalgia test immediately. Like, there's no question. And I don't want to let down Chick from the Adult Babies show, because he said on Instagram, he's like, if you guys don't think it passes the test, you're wrong.
No, I mean,
right.
I mean, I got one last fact. Fun fact that David Arquette was actually going to be the boyfriend. He got casted, but then he read the part and wanted to do more of a comedy role of the doobie. I know, Dan. I know that's not his name. This definitely passes the test for me. Yeah. Like, can't be. It's just too good. There's so it hit every thing, flying colors. I don't know about the other ones. I've heard they all suck. This is the best one. It's up there with Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, like that. It gets mentioned with those.
Yeah.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. I think it passes the nostalgia test. I'll add my one last trivia fact as well, Manny, is that at the end, because we love an Easter egg in the credits, at the end credits, it says no thanks whatsoever to the Santa Rosa City School District Governing Board, because days before they were supposed to film at Santa Rosa, I believe it was Santa Rosa High School, the rights to film there were pulled because the school board read the script and it was too graphic and too much, too much dying, that they said, nah. So it's crazy. So go ahead. You.
I know what you're about to say. They had to film it somewhere else, but I did find out that 3 years prior there was a murder at that school or in that town. So they were like, although they wanted to say no thanks to them, it's like, well, the 3 years before that there was like someone who died. So like, I kind of understand. Did they not
read the script? The movie was called even before it was called Scream. Like you said, it was called Scary Movie.
Scary Movie.
What were we thinking that it took till the last minute? Because that's a horror. Thank you so much for taking my fun trivia fact and making it horrifying. I like almost like what Wes Craven did with Scream. So love the callback on that. So it's both a little bit.
So none of it was filmed in a high school, right? It was
no. Like that's what happened, that they decided the last minute to pull it. It's wild, but I do think for the nostalgia test, it absolutely passes. Passes. I think the fact that it's so meta and it's so self-aware, it really can remain nostalgic because it pokes fun at itself. Anything we would have called it out for on this podcast, right? Anything we would have been like, this is a huge gaping hole, with the exception of course, the complete and utter lack of diversity, which is capsule of the time.
Absolutely.
Right. They do a better job in the sequels, but with that exception, anything we would call it out for as far as writing or directing or, even the plot holes we've mentioned, they're all in there in a way that makes it a perfect time capsule of the 90s that you can't really rip it apart. There's nothing to be that upset about as far as the plot holes go. Like, I think we can flow with it. Nothing interrupts the ability to enjoy this movie today. And that's why I think it's one of, honestly, flying colors passes the nostalgia.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Flying colors. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Lauren, I think
I know we got to go. Last thing, though, when they're sitting down talking, do you remember the show, A Nickelodeon Freshman?
No.
The Freshman, I think it's called The Freshman, and they're in the mall, and there's like the four of them are talking and they're telling stories, and there was like a comedy skit show.
No.
I think it was called Freshman. Man, because that scene, damn it. Now I gotta look for it. That scene, it was basically, to me, it looked like that scene of the four of them or five of them talking around that whatever little circle. That was kind of like, it was that show. You know what movie, what show I'm talking about, Dan, because we did the Nickelodeon Orange Years, and you brought it up. I think it was called Freshman.
Well, Manny, I would recommend watching the sequels. I mean, Kevin Williamson actually wrote a treatment for Scream 2 at the end of Scream 1. And like Stu says, you have to have a sequel. Like, it was always intended. So I think the fact that it was intention, like for a sequel, it works well for that. So I would recommend, if anyone has not seen at least the first three, to just do a binge watch over Halloween. It's a fun time. Absolutely.
Okay.
Awesome. Well,
will do.
Everyone. That's it. I think, Lauren, the next time you're on, we're going to have to get a real horrible movie.
Oh, is it going to be
Hocus Pocus 2 and Scream? We're going to come up with
Steve is upset right now because he wants us to do movies we don't like.
Oh, that's a great point. You
just got to do a good one. Like, sometimes, because we don't know if it's good. We didn't know.
I mean, we put it to the test. It's good. Ended up being really bad.
Yeah, Steve, bring a microphone that works next time. So I mean,
Shots fired to the musician. Yep.
But everyone, thank you so much for listening to the Scream episode. Pass with Flying Colors. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on again. It was a blast. Always fun. Bringing all the facts and everything. I mean, amazing episode.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to see you guys. And, if I have to continue the trend of only watching great movies that always pass a nostalgia test, and so be it. Let it be my curse. Hey, I've not seen Blair Witch Project in a very long time. I don't know if that one's going to pass. So that one, at least, if I don't participate, I need you guys to do it and let me know if it passes the nostalgia test.
Oh, so dear God.
I'm looking.
I think we're going to have you do it because I haven't seen it in a long time too.
It's been truly decades.
I almost don't want to watch it, but we have to.
We have to destroy any possible.
It is so boring. We'd probably want to fast forward to it. Yeah. I don't think it will pass. I don't think.
Am I gonna end up on my phone?
I think that is definitely. I think that is definitely a small time capsule that might not pass. So
everyone.
Not many people talk about it.
No,
it would be fun. It would be a blast. I love talking to you guys. I love listening to you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Truly.
Thank you so much.
Later, Dan. Go to your class, Dan.
Everyone. Please follow the Nostalgia Test on TikTok and Instagram at the Nostalgia Test. And, if we come back to Twitter or X at Nostalgia Test.
That ain't happening.
Amen.
And everybody, please leave your comments on this episode. Like, subscribe, and comment. Please. Loving everyone's coming back. We're like releasing an episode a week, it looks like. Well, probably not. I don't know. We're trying our best, people.
You're doing really good.
I've been loving it. I look forward every time Apple alerts me. So
getting Apple alerts. Amazing.
Oh, yeah. Getting Apple alerts. And hey, make sure you guys join the mailing list because Nostalgia Test will go ahead and email you quotes from the show as well as specific points. It's great. It's helpful. So you can stay up to date with all of their new episodes coming out. It's fantastic, and then you don't.
Damn, we got an announcer right here.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get my job whatever it can be.
We gotta have Lauren do our intro and outro here.
Yeah,
it's like put it in as an edit.
I just put a drop.
I love the quotes.
I love it.
Oh my God, everyone! Thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next test. Peace.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please subscribe to the Nostalgia Test podcast to know when new episodes drop. Don't forget to leave us 5 stars and a positive review so more people can find the podcast. Share your thoughts and memories on today's topic on our Twitter @NostalgiaTest and on Instagram @The Nostalgia Test. Tune in next time because you never know what pop culture will pop up on The Nostalgia Test.